What's up, everybody? It's your girl Tyra, and I'm coming back at you again with another video. So as you can tell by the title, today we will be talking a little bit about mental health and specifically how to cope with loss, especially due to coronavirus. I, along with a lot of other people around the world, have experienced loss during this pandemic, and I just want to share with you guys how I am coping with it. So in a video a few months ago, I shared with you guys that I started going to therapy, and it was through BetterHelp's sister site, Faithful Counseling, and I have honestly loved it. It was definitely a game changer for me, and within the BetterHelp platform, they have groupinars, and these groupinars are there to teach you different things about mental health, and they have classes like living with loss, overcoming overthinking, how to communicate with loved ones, PTSD and trauma, and all of these different webinars that you can get on, ask questions, and talk to a licensed counselor. So I attended a class about 2 weeks ago called Coping with Loss, and I just want to share with you guys what I learned. So first, I want to start by saying early on in the pandemic here in the United States, I lost someone that I have basically known my entire life, and she was very pivotal in making me the person that I am today. I personally like to say that she is the one who taught me how to dream. So this is a very she taught me how to go for my dreams. She taught me what a dream is and really opened my eyes to help me become who I am. So that was very early on in the pandemic, and after that I decided to join this webinar, Coping with Loss. And I learned that based on the Kubler-Ross method, there are 5 stages of grief, and grief is not a straight line. You can experience any stage of grief at any time. You can bounce around, all of these kinds of things. There's no time limit on your grief process. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go in a specific order. And the first stage of grief is denial. Denial typically happens at the very early stages of grief. You can't really understand why it happened or that it did happen. It doesn't feel real, and it's very hard to incorporate the experience that you had into your daily life. The next stage of grief is anger, and we all know what anger is, but the beauty behind this stage is sometimes this can be the stage that helps people that have been lethargic get up and do something about their situation, help them be proactive in their life. So the next stage of grief is definitely something that I have done a lot, and it's called bargaining, and that's when you are trying to make a deal with God or whoever you believe in. I believe in God, and you're basically looking for a miracle. I know in certain situations I would say, God, if you did this, then I will serve you for all the rest of the days of my life, and I would just be looking for a miracle to happen in whatever situation I was in. The next stage is depression, and we're not talking about severe depression or chronic depression. We're talking about when you're just experiencing deep sadness. And how to gauge if your depression is severe or chronic is when you don't even get up to feed yourself or use the bathroom or take a bath. That may be when you want to talk to a professional and say, hey, I need help increasing my quality of life because I don't want to do anything. And the last step is acceptance, and this doesn't mean that you agree with what happened. It just means that you have accepted your new life and you are moving from a place where your life feels foreign. That's the denial. You're moving away from that and moving into a phase where you have accepted it and you can move through life in this new normal, knowing that this has happened. And of course, you can still be grieving during this process of acceptance. Personally, for me, I don't really think the grief process ever ends, especially since the last stage is acceptance, because we've all lost people. I think the first loss that really hurt me was when I was in the 7th grade, and I lost my uncle that I was very close to. And like even now talking about it, it's still like, you know, hurts a little bit, but that's why I say the grief process never ends. So how do we cope with all of this loss? First, I want to say I've always been the type of person to just put it in the back of my mind until it just mashes its way to the front and says, okay, Tyra, it's time for you to deal with these emotions. But going through BetterHelp, I've learned different coping mechanisms and ways to help move myself through the grief process without causing harm to myself. So grief and loss never refer to one specific experience, and I think that you should avoid comparisons or expectations, like saying things like, dang, it's been 5 months, why am I still crying about this? Or even listening to people who say those types of things to you, because shame is one of the most toxic things that you can give to a person. So that's a form of shame when you're saying, it's been 5 months, you need to get over it. Everyone's grief process is different, and we should all honor that. You could ask yourself, how would I respond to this if it were my best friend feeling this way? And you should try to treat yourself the way that you would treat your best friend and not have these crazy expectations for yourself in this timeline that you just magically made up in your head for when you should be done grieving. So for me, if my best friend were going through this, I would be showing them compassion and be there for them. And you should show yourself that same compassion and that same love, self-love for yourself going through this trying time. Try to love on yourself a little more if you can. And make sure you are validating your loss. There are multiple ways that you can validate your loss, and one would be honoring where you are in the process. And that's the complete opposite of those expectations that we were talking about earlier. You want to validate yourself by saying, this is where I am in my process, and I appreciate that. I honor where I am. I'm angry, but that's okay. I am bargaining to God, but that is okay. I am honoring my grief process. So now I'm going to give you guys a few tactical things that you can do to cope with your loss. Number one would be to surround yourself with a support group. Don't isolate yourself. I know a lot of people like to retreat. I'm one of those people. I like to retreat. I don't want to show anybody what's really going on under the surface, but don't do that. If your friend wants to come over and just sit with you or just be there in your presence, let them. If people want to help you out through this time, let them. Don't push people away, because that's doing more harm than good. Number two would be finding an enjoyable activity, and this is personally what I decided to do. So I ended up starting a garden in April, and I really just wanted to do something that had purpose. So I wanted to fill my space with a bunch of life and love and have something that I can nurture. And I have been so happy. I have about 30 plants now, but I've also been painting more. I've been spending more time with my animals. I have a dog and I have 2 turtles. I've been spending more time with them, and I even started my family tree. So I'm learning where I've come from, and I have been learning how to honor my lineage and my ancestors and things. So I've been filling my time with that. Number 3 would be make time for self-care. Doing BetterHelp, there's also a webinar called Self-Care 101 where she teaches you all the different types of self-care. And some of the self-care that I have been indulging in is working out. I have been turning my phone off and just being with my plants and with my animals. And I also did a spiritual fast. I did a 3-day spiritual fast, and it provided me with so much clarity, and I can't wait to do another one. If you don't know what a spiritual fast is, the one that I did was where I did not eat until 3 o'clock every day, and during that time where I would normally be eating, I spent time with God. I was reading my Bible and doing praise and worship, just sitting in the presence of God. Number 4, which I think may take a little while for me, would be make meaning of the experience. Why do you think this happened? How can you honor this person in your daily life? What things can you do to make you feel closer to this person in the things that you do every day? How can you honor them, honor their legacy, honor their life? And the final one is have a coping toolbox. A coping toolbox is it can be a physical thing, or it can be a list on your phone or a piece of paper. And it's a group of things that help to ground you when you're feeling sad, angry, frustrated, all of those emotions that you don't really want to feel. Your coping toolbox can help ground you during those times. So it would be things like worry stones. If you like to color when you're anxious, have a coloring book in there. Some of your favorite CDs, a teddy bear, a blanket, anything that can ground you when you're feeling those strong emotions. So for me personally, I don't have a physical coping toolbox, but Two things that are in my toolbox are my dog Lexi, and yes, she is registered as an emotional support animal, but her, and also the Calm app. So with the Calm app, I listen to meditations, sleep stories, and it really helps to ground me when I'm feeling very, very anxious. So let me know down in the comments some of the things that are in your coping toolbox. Do you even have a coping toolbox? Let me know. If you guys would like a full video on how to build a coping toolbox, make sure that you give this video a like and let me know down in the comments. It was a little hard letting you in on some personal things that are going on in my life, but I am getting comfortable with it. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video to the end. If you are not already subscribed to this channel, please make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below and make sure your notifications are on so you can get all of the alerts anytime your girl posts any new content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this video helps you out. See you next time.